Hello everyone and welcome to the Great Block Ruins track tutorial. I actually made a poll on my channel very long time ago, basically right after the game came out, asking you guys what you guys wanted to see in terms of track tutorials. And you guys said Great Block Ruins, which probably hasn't aged too well considering how much this track has changed over the past couple of months, but I want to deliver nonetheless. Let's just get into the track straight away. I'm going to go over first how to drive, just the Shroomless variation of the track. And then we'll go over the Shroom shortcuts. And then we will go over other tech. And then we'll go over the items, including common shock spots and where exactly you should be using your dodges. So you don't have to go for those coins, but if you want to, you can do that. I like charge jumping from the ramp onto the rail, but I will go over another version of that. So you can also go over here for this rail. I'll actually show all three routes I prefer on this track. You can also go around here, drive just like this. And then we're going to go over all the shortcuts as well in detail, so don't worry too much about it. But there's another way to do this rail Shroomless shortcut, which is where you go kind of further to the right here. You can go for like this coin here and then left charge jump onto the rail. So another path I really like is actually utilizing this cloud to get over here and get the pole trick like you see a lot of people get. You can also go for box cut here, just like so. Clip that as well and break it down. And then I'm also going to show the best way to take the non-rail part of the track. So if you want to not take the rail, I suggest you just drift around the corner, because if you trick, you're going to be getting way too much forward momentum and go way too wide. And then of course you can also take the rail here on the right. And I'll show this as well. You can go for an item box over here and trick off like so. And that's basically all the Shroomless lines you need to know. Everything else is basically just shroom cuts and other item spots. So let me show you exactly what to do for all these shortcuts. So let's do this one. This one's the simplest. So I kind of forgot to go over the right rail route of this track, so I'll let the YouTube short do the talking. Next shortcut is quite long and tricky, but here goes. After tricking off the cloud, aim for this right rail. Trick onto it and trick near the end of the bronze part of the rail onto the black part. Then trick off the black chain link rail just before the last chain. Aim for this bronze pole on the right, aim for the second cone, and trick off the edge. Hold left just as you're about parallel with the ring and the wall, and you should make it onto the wall where you can trick and make it back onto the main road. Now there are times where this right rail will be blocked by bananas, green shells, maybe someone has a boomerang, fire flower. And although this method is the fastest, you'll have to learn another method to this shortcut if you want to take it without the right. So if you're getting the item box, you can do this with the double, but I don't really suggest it, because I don't think it's that much faster, and it's really risky, especially if it's contested. But you can go for the double and do this. But basically, you trick and make sure you get onto the wall without hitting the ring, and then you trick off pretty late. For this one, you can aim for that coin. You can go a little bit further right or further left. It just depends on what you prefer. And you want to charge jump to the left basically as you land. So right after you land, left charge jump, and you should snap to the rail pretty easily. For this path though, you don't really want to trick on this cloud. You You don't want to do the super bounce strat either, because that really only applies to that bounce in particular. And basically any downhill ones, I think the uphill bounces, you don't really want to be doing that. And also because of the fact that there's a boost panel right here, so you want to be able to line up properly for this part. But basically, you want to trick to the right. You can kind of use the box as like a guide, because that's directly above where the platform is. And then of course you just trick, aim for the pole, the ancient ruined column, and then make sure you're far enough right to clip the ring. And then here for the box cut. So, what I really like about the box cut is it's great for when you're in first place, but if you're in a mid spot and you're like trying to hold a dodge, sometimes the box can get destroyed by whoever decides to take the shortcut, and that means you can't take it sometimes. You can still do the box cut without the box, but it is just a lot slower than doing the box cut normally, and it's only barely faster than going around. But if you want to do the box cut, this is how you do it. So you make sure you clip the ring, and then instead of getting immediately onto the wall, you want to delay it quite a bit until you hit, you see this little diagonal part of the cube that kind of like inserts in on itself. There's two diagonal parts. You want to hit that bottom part of it. You want to land on this, so just below the crease line. And if you do all this correctly, you should just ride up the wall naturally, and you want to trick off not as late as possible, but pretty late. And then as long as you hit below these 3 leaves that I'm about to hit, like as long as you hit below those 3 leaves, you should be a-okay to make it through the box cut, and you won't respawn. If you go any higher than this, basically, you're going to be getting respawned by Lakitu, and that's not ideal. But I would try and get this down in time trials a bunch before you go for it online, because it is very finicky. And try out different angles and stuff. I wouldn't ever go for the box cut while going for the box, like the item box. But just try different angles. Try maybe the bottom path instead of the rail, or like I did here with the other path. And then here, the aim is, if you do that all correctly, you'll be able to basically swing wide. You kind of want to hold right, not too long here, but basically as soon as you hit the ring, you can start holding left. And that way you have a big enough angle to kind of make sure that you hit this box and get sent to the left. And so that way you don't have to hold B too much or release that much. I would suggest releasing, especially at first. I still will release a lot, even though I've practiced the shortcut a lot. So maybe in the future, people will get it so down that you just won't even have to really release at all. But for now, I would suggest you release after you hit the box here, until you know for a fact you're going to make this turn. So like here, I kind of basically released until I got to this point, and then I started pressing A again, and that's basically how you do the box cut. We'll go over it one more time. So you clip the pole. Want to make sure you're right enough to clip the ring, and then don't go immediately on the wall. What I like to do is hold left, and then once I get kind of close to the wall, I release the stick, and then that way I can line up kind of with some good timing. And then I start holding left again, hit that bottom part of the diagonal little slit on the cube just below the crease, and then trick off pretty late, basically right after you get the orange boost on the wall. And then make sure, if you're doing this all correctly, you will land, or not land, but you will clip this part of the ring just below these double leaves on the left. It's kind of optional to be below the 3rd leaf, but I wouldn't ever go that high on purpose. By the way, if you are curious, if you want to clip your own game and watch it back, you just press the little square circle button on your controller, whether it be your Joy-Cons or your Pro Controller, and hold that down, and that'll take a clip. and just pressing it once will give you a capture. I can't capture since I'm in a video already, but you get the point. And then you just go to your home screen and go down here. I probably showed it already, but anyways, let's go over the first. Okay, I didn't actually get that first part, but that's, you basically aim for the left coin and then charge jump into it, and it's kind of how Valor works on Wario Stadium, where if you get that coin, you'll make it pretty easily. Even without it, it's pretty dang easy to make, but it'll look a little dicey sometimes. Anyways, so here, this is how to do the bottom path version. I like to do a right mini turbo here. You can do a charge jump, but it makes you so inflexible that I would just never suggest going for it online, unless you really need that extra time save. Say someone's like really close to you on the right path, and they have like triple greens, so you want to be ahead of them for sure. Then, sure, I would maybe go for the charge jump, but there's very rare instances where you're gonna want to actually get the charge jump there. More than likely, you're gonna want to be flexible to avoid items and things like that. So, plus this probably loses like 50 milliseconds, so it's not that big of a deal. But essentially, the way you can do this is you can mini turbo trick into the cone, and you want to do that with the charge jump as well. Anyways, regardless, clip the ring, and if it helps to get to the wall faster, you can left trick, and then as soon as you get the orange mini turbo, this time you can wait a little bit, since you're essentially you're not landing as late as you are doing the box cut. So you can hold out the orange part of your mini turbo a little bit longer, but don't wait too long, because then you'll manually detach from the wall after a certain amount of time. You just basically want to make sure you trick before that'll happen. And it's pretty simple, because as long as you're not landing super duper low, the top part of this, like you see this little diagonal, that'll basically be the point where you're going to detach. And you just drift around the turn, and you'll be fine. So, those are all the Shroomless driving strats. Now, I'm going to get into the Shroom shortcuts. And yeah, let's get into that. There's also one more Shroomless driving technique, which I will go over very soon, but yeah, for the Shroom shortcuts, this shortcut was actually very difficult for me to get on like day one of release, but this one right here is very simple to get now. And if you haven't learned it already, you should absolutely be going for it. I would also, by the way, never go for this Shroomless wall ride thing that the world record does. It's not going to be worth it online, I don't think, ever, because it saves barely anything, and you skip a box. But yeah, anyways, if you're going for like a double, for example, you want to do like a double super bounce with your cart here. And then I wouldn't even trick, I would just let the mini turbo go out like that. Because if you trick, you're going to also go a little bit too wide. But let me show you how to do the last shroom cut as well. It's not too difficult, probably one of the easiest shroom cuts in the game. But basically, I'll show you guys how to do that, because it actually is not too easy if you're very new to the game as well. Like, both these shortcuts are not super easy to do, but yeah, I'll show this as well in a clip. So here, how to do this first shortcut. As you see these boxes, you basically want to shroom into the middle of them. You can go pretty tight, but I wouldn't suggest going too tight, because you see right here, there is a rock sticking out. So if you go too tight, you're actually either going to hit the wall, or you're going to be too wide for this little hump. And you see this little hump on the right here, where you can trick off this. This is where people are tricking off of for the shortcut. And this is very important, because you're almost always going to want to get this unless you're going for an item box. And I'll show how to do this later. So my YouTube short on the shortcuts on this track actually covered this pretty well. So I want to show this off for the track guide. And just let the short do do the work for me. You can also do this shortcut while getting an item box by simply releasing your Super Mini Turbo in the off-road to gradually make your way onto the rail. Obviously, this is quite a bit slower, but for an extra item, it could be worth it. It's not too difficult, but basically, shroom into the middle of these boxes, hold tight, and then release as soon as you get through all of the boxes, and then aim for this hill and point towards not necessarily the end of the rail because that's not where you want to be, but just before it, and then that way you can get your trick boost out and you're able to front trick to this other rail. You can also trick to the right here at the end of this to say if someone has a banana or triple greens in front of you, you can right trick to avoid everything, and you won't right trick off the map unless you're holding right the entire time, so just right trick and start holding left if you want to avoid items. But yeah, this is pretty simple. There's also this little ending shortcut, which it seems like it's super hard to get really tight. But basically what you do here is you hold left, shroom, and then release. And you just keep holding left. And you'll make it through the cut pretty tight. The only way you fail this is if you just shroom after you hit the off-road. Because then, actually even here I'd shroom after I hit the off-road. Like you'd have to shroom pretty late in order to mess this up. Like I think what I do even here is I release into the off-road and then I shroom up. You don't have to do that. You can shroom and then release. It doesn't really matter. As long as you do those in pretty quick succession, you should be fine. I guess if you want to go really tight, you can do what I did, which is release your Mini Turbo first into the off-road and then shroom. But you should be fine either way. As long as you don't hold your drift through the off-road and then not release in time to shroom up. But anyways, that shouldn't be too difficult. I think we're going to go over the different item, the best item usages, I guess. Okay, so for the item part, the item portion of this video, we're going to be going over stars, megas, goldens, ghosts. Those are all, and bullet bills as well. All the best spots to use the items. And first we'll go over the golden. So golden, you generally want to be using this either like right after this bounce, if you want to chain, for example, or you can golden on the wall if you want to get through the shortcut and use up your golden before the glider. You can also use your golden here before the cut. Oh, come on. You know what? Let's just show where to use the Mega Mushroom. So you can afford to Mega Mushroom a little bit earlier than your stars and your ghosts. So I think you can use your Mega, like, basically as you land, a little bit after the finish line, and I think it'll take you through the cut. If you want to get a box as well, you can do that. Yeah. So just a little bit after the finish line should be good. If you Mega on the finish line, I don't think you can go for item box. Hopefully I don't get ghosted again, so I can show you guys what to do. And you can golden just a tiny bit after the second ring. And this will take you all the way through the cut. Now, if you want to get a box, you want to golden actually at the first ring, and you can barely chain in time. I actually want to see, do I get the golden so I can show you guys again? I don't get it. Okay, good to know. But anyways, for ghosts, like I said, for the Mega, the earliest you can use it is around here. The ghost you want to use about here. And if you want to get an item box, you can. But you can go through the cut like you with the shroom and get the trick as well. But for bullet bills, there's a couple of good bullet bill spots on this track. Oh, of course, now I get the bullet bill. Okay, anyways. So you can do that golden thing I talked about, where you golden at the first ring if you want to chain, and it golden at the second ring if you want to get through the cut guaranteed. And that gets you through the shortcut. And if you didn't know, the bill actually doesn't take you through the shortcut unless you get really deep into it. And I think the point of no return is probably around here. Kind of want to test and see, because I'm not exactly sure where it is. Okay. So that it's basically once you get past this little point, you can build through the cut. Just in case, what I would do is probably get into it a little bit longer, because if it spills out to the left, you will be in a terrible, terrible spot, because the build will be very, very slow. But I would only really do that if you do the little golden strat I just told you about, or if you have like triple shrooms and you shroom through the cut and get a box, for example. If you don't have either one of those, if you don't do the golden strat, or if you do not want to do the golden strat, or you don't have triple shrooms, for example, if you just have a bill, what I would suggest you do actually is, say you're coming up to the set like this, just bill on this rail, and it takes you a little bit tighter. Now, of course, it doesn't go on the rail like that other bill I just showed you would. I actually didn't show you all the way, but you guys have seen it before, probably. Actually, I'll show you the full extension as well before. So I'll show you what this looks like. So it goes on the rail, which is really nice, and extends you all the way past this cloud, which is really nice, and past the ramp. See, you'll be very, very fast through that section compared to everybody. If you build on that rail, it'll also give it to you. Anyways, you build on the rail, and as long as you hold tight on these turns, the build will give the extension. Because normally the build would want to drop you off. Oh, actually, I guess it doesn't give you the extension. I thought it did for sure. Maybe you have to build a little bit later on the rail. Maybe if you have more coins, it'll give you the extension. Either way, it's decently close there, I would say. So if you want to get the extension, I guess build a little bit later on the rail if you don't have mushrooms. And then if you do, you can just build in the cut like so. So there's also this build extension. This build extension will also take you past the clouds here, which is really, really nice to cover last set lap 2 shocks. If you're decently far behind, for example. Or on lap 3, it also covers a decent shock spot there. But yeah, we basically covered everything with the items at this point. The common shock spots on this track, I'd say most common is first at lap 3. It probably happens about 50% of the time. And then I'd say last at lap 2 happens about maybe 30% of the time, and the other 20% goes to like second or last set shocks, a mix of those in between. So you probably want a game plan based off of that information. You can also, by the way, do box bill, which is like this, which I quite enjoy doing sometimes. It's not super great, but say you have a bill plus golden like I do exactly right now, and you want to cover last at lap 2, that's a very good spot to use it, because it drops you pretty nicely before the cut, and whatever item you have, you can basically spam, of course, unless if it's like triple shrooms. So those are all the good bill golden. I didn't show the star spot, but it's basically the same thing as the ghost, except you can use it just a tiny bit earlier. But basically right after the finish line is where you can mega. So yeah, you can even go really high there and get the box bill. As long as you don't go like directly... Oh, I don't think I can show it there. But as long as you don't get like the Lakitu respawn, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you time trial this track for a little bit, because you will get it sometimes before you start getting it consistently. But yeah, you can go either really high to be safe, or you can just do the box cut like normal and get the box bill, as I like to call it. So I showed you guys earlier, I might edit the clip in, but I showed you guys earlier that you actually don't want to go on this little hump, because it's kind of hard to get this trick. I got it that time, but you can also clip the edge like that. You can do that if you're super comfortable, but in a star it's way easier because you're not so big. You also want to make sure, if you're in a mega for this part, you can sometimes clip that edge. So what you want to do is, if you have a mega, you actually want to trick pretty early off of the rail. Oftentimes you'll be tricking off the edge of it, and I kind of got it very slow with the mega there, so I couldn't really show it very well. But trust me, you do not want to trick on the edge of the rail there if you are in a Mega. So, yeah, just keep that in mind and be careful. So yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully you all learned something from this video, whether it's the driving or items, anything else you want me to see for future track tutorials, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye!